Jankum Pog doesn't know how to reconfigure the deflector to emit a phased tachyon pulse. Dr. Noam orders Vice Admiral Janeway to drink a cup of coffee, and the crew of the USS Protostar plays charades. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Bonnie Gordon.
Yay!
Hello.
Today we're doing my name's Ryan T.S. Today we're doing a review of Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, Episode 18, Mindwalk, directed by Sung Shin, written by Julie Benson and Shawna Benson. We have two very special guests here today. What do you know? What a coincidence. Julie Benson and Shawna Benson. Hello, and thank you so much.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
We're big fans of you guys, so it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for asking us.
I want to clap really loud, but I know I'll peak my microphone.
Cirroc, since they already said that they're fans of ours, can we finally admit that we're huge fans of theirs?
Yeah, we're
and
fans
your show?
as well. Yeah,
We're loving it.
we're really enjoying this
Mutual
show.
Admiration Society.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a good show, and every time I sit down and watch this, it's like I'm so into this show. It's like this is really, as much as it's not a cartoon. It's like an animated show, and
Yep.
and that's really what I get out of it. It's so much suited for all age ranges. So I feel like no matter how old you are watching this show, you get something out of it. So that's a big
lovely.
testament to you guys. Yeah.
I think
hope
you almost
so.
forget that
That's
it's animated. You know, I forget it's animated. I'm just like, la, la, oh, this, yeah.
Yeah. I think, obviously we have to credit the Hagerman brothers, Dan and Kevin, for, setting forth the mission. They are the captains of our little writers' room ship. And so they are the ones who say, we want this to be accessible for everybody, whether you're a Trek fan or not, whether you're 7 or 70, we want everyone to find something that speaks to them in the show. And again, that, that goes across all nationalities and races. And so I think it's, IDIC is a huge component, I think, of Prodigy in terms of talking about how we assembled the colorful cast of characters,
That was immediately evident too. Sorry, Cirroc, but that was immediately evident when you were just even releasing the imagery of Prodigy before the first episode. We got to see diversity of cast, not just in the traditional sense, but just big and small and machine and biological and purple and orange, and it was just such a great start and such a great idea. But I'm sorry, what were you saying, Cirroc?
No, I was going to say before we started recording, you were telling Shawna that your mom made that sweatshirt for you. That Star Trek Next Generation sweatshirt. And
90s.
That's
one of the many novelization book covers. I would point
that's
out.
an original. That's an original one right there.
Yes. I can't wash it too often because otherwise I will lose all of the paint.
It doesn't get warm.
Right.
So it doesn't get worn much, but it fits.
So that's my question, really, as growing up as a Star Trek fan, and now working in Star Trek. How much of it do you feel like is a responsibility to carry, like the torch, or how much is it just pure fun to be doing something that you love to watch?
Yes. Obviously, when we met the Hageman brothers, we'd been working in live action. That's been pretty much our career up to this point, except for a couple of years that we wrote comics for DC. So, for us, it was like, we don't know if we want to write animation. It
was more we didn't know how. We thought there would be some other way to do it.
Yeah, it would be too different.
Okay.
Maybe we wouldn't be able to pick it up very quickly. And the great thing was that they reassured us about it. Like, no, we want to write this like any other show. And as far as we know, there's nothing really to be done different, except for the fact that we're going to write it and then you're not going to see it for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
It's a lot longer than live action. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think that's actually happening more now in live action as shows get like written and then they go to production after. But for us, it was a totally new experience. We're used to being on a set and working with actors and, being in post-production. And so all of this happening during the pandemic, of course, we didn't have the ability to sort of see the project through after we were done in the writer's room, even though we had, we were also producers on the show. We got to see some animatics now and again, and a few things were screened, which was really exciting. But I do think that the pandemic limited the ability to really, I think do any more than what we were, I mean, we did a lot. I'm not saying we didn't do anything, but, do more than we thought we would be doing. So kind of a weird answer to that. But Julie and I both loved Star Trek growing up, huge fans. I definitely felt like it was important that Star Trek fans love what we were doing. And I think, you guys have talked to Aaron and others, and clearly that was a very important piece for us, that we were being true to the spirit of the franchise and the show, and that where we were doing things differently, it was because we had the ability to tell certain types of stories or use certain types of characters that are just really very difficult to do without it costing enormous amounts of money in live action.
Absolutely.
Like, I think one of my favorite things in the show is like just the Borg episode where we get to show other assimilated creatures and species, because you didn't really get to see that on the live action. They couldn't afford it. It's expensive. You got to put people in makeup and double makeup, and so that was exciting in the room to even break some of that. That was fun. So those sort of things of thinking outside the box, which we had to learn very quickly on comic books too, that, we don't have to worry about a production budget. We can just write whatever. I know artists hate that, but
you do have to worry about a production budget in animation.
Yes.
But you're able possibilities are a lot greater in terms of expanding. When we write for live action, it's like, you probably can't have a helicopter crash in every episode, or you can't really have a full-blown space battle in every episode.
Right.
But
or this actor doesn't physically look like this, so there's no way even makeup-wise we can do this, but it's like, take Riley. Doing Rock Talk. It's like there's no way to make her that in live action.
Make a lot of concessions, for sure.
Exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that the Hageman brothers are working with the Benson sisters. And
yes, isn't that funny? I feel like is there any sibling rivalry?
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked them. Who got who into writing?
And Star Trek.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I mean, we'll credit our parents with getting us into sci-fi fantasy first.
That's fair.
I definitely was writing a lot. Julie was a stealth writer. Like, I didn't know she was doing a lot of like writing on her own until we sort of realized that we were pursuing our careers here in LA, and I came here specifically to become a writer, and she was going to become a producer, and she said, I don't want to be a producer or an executive that has who's never written a script, right? And so maybe let's write something together. And I was like, that sounds like a fun thing to do. Let's do that. And it was just, it just worked out in a way that I don't think either one of us anticipated when we sort of started.
Julie, is that because you didn't want to work on producing stuff that you didn't really like or have a passion for?
No, it was just I was giving notes to writers, and I'd never done the hard job of trying to write an entire script. And I'd done bits and bobs. And
you've been to film school.
I went to film school, and I'd written, odds and ends shorts, but not an entire script. So when Sean was taking courses, I was like, well, let's try to write something together. It'll be good practice for me. And then the first thing we wrote actually had traction. And so for us to become professional writers, that's sort of the story. But we were both writing fanfic, and we would, write little plays that Doctor Who episodes we would do in our basement and record. And there's some Star Trek commercials and all this stuff when we were little. So
so much.
Real nerd stuff. Real official nerd stuff.
I would do that too, but I'd like perform it for my sisters. Like they weren't allowed to write it with me. I'm like, no, sit down. You're watching this.
You're the audience.
And they were like, oh gosh, here goes Bonnie again with her play, her one woman show of chaos. Yeah.
So Julie,
two sides of the same coin for us, I guess.
Yeah. I was going to say,
That's
Julie,
amazing.
does that mean that you approach writing from more of the producer's point of view? and Shawna, you approach writing from more of like, say, more of a creative aspect, like the creative aspect versus the practical aspect, or have you both just kind of blended into?
I think we always have to wear a producer hat when you're on a show, because you have to know, okay, what are my standing sets and how can I amortize this, and do we have this actor this week and whatnot. You're always writing to that, but when you're breaking the story and you're writing that first script, it's all creative. You want to keep that sort of out of the process, and then have people start telling you how to trim and shape to what you need production wise. So I think we both write creatively.
I think so. I mean, I'm obviously, we are not carbon copies of each other. That does, but we are obviously raised together. We've lived together a very long time, and we know each other incredibly well. So we have a lot of shorthand that gets used in the writer's room. It kind of creeps people out because it almost becomes like twin speak, because I'll say,
I was about to say that.
Yeah. The Hagemans would always point this out. I think they had it too, but not to the extent we did, where somebody would be pitching something and I would look at Shawna and she would look at me and they'd be like, what? And we're like, no, we just, and we'd both be saying the same thing of what we thought. And they're like, how are you doing that? And we're like, I don't know, but and we're not twins. It's just, we have the same reference point. So if there's words that trigger something. So that's the best part about writing in a team.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking about writing, this particular episode was very clever. And, as I was watching this first season and watching how, Dal and the gang have a big dilemma with how they're going to be able to communicate with Starfleet. Yeah. I was watching this thinking like, how are they going to be able to do it? Like, smoke signals,
we talked about all that.
Yeah. We talked about
signs in the windshield. We talked about all of it.
But what was interesting, and I don't think anybody probably thinks about this, but most of these kids are from the Delta Quadrant. They don't know standard. They don't know an alphabet. They don't know how to write. Possibly. They not even have the
just the idea of hold up a poster board.
I just remember there was a time really, really early on that we were talking about that. Maybe Dal claims the captain's chair by putting a sign on it, and we went, how does Dal know everyone? We already started our show by saying that they can't communicate with each other because they all have different languages and they didn't have similarity in that. And it was the universal translator that, kind of brings them together in a way.
When we met with the Hagemans before the show got picked up, and they had mentioned, we were talking about other projects, and they said, this is long walk to an answer, but they said to us, we're working on animation. We want to work with you guys. We said, we want to work with you, but we're really scared of animation. We don't know how to do it. They talked us down. And they said, well, what animation do you want to do? And we said, oh, well, we'd love to do Doctor Who or Star Trek or some franchise that, we grew up loving. And they both looked at each other and they did the thing. And we said, what? And they said, we actually just pitched on this Star Trek thing and you guys would be perfect for it. So if it goes, we'd love to have you.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's such a fun, how that almost origin story.
Origin story.
Lunch. I mean, they were so great, and it was just a definite we got along with them incredibly well.
But they pitched us the story.
They're just easy guys
lunch.
To get along with. They're great.
Yeah, they pitched us the story, the pilot at that lunch, and it was about communication. It was sort of early days. They hadn't written it yet. I think they just verbally pitched it. And about communication and miscommunication. What if you can't communicate with each other in Starfleet? It's so easy to do that. What if we take that ability away? And so from day one, I think we left that lunch and Shawna and I kind of got in the car. We're like, okay, so that's a great problem. How are we going to solve that? And so we'd been back engineering, back burnering this question for it felt like forever. And months. And when we got in the room, everyone was trying to churn through it. And we had talked early on, I think you guys have heard that we'd talked about tropes when we first started the room, let's do a body swap and let's do a holodeck episode and a blah, blah, blah. But you never want to shove the trope in just to do it. You want it to be cohesive to story. And it just was never fitting in. And then when we finally realized that's going to be literally the only way they can communicate is to be in each other's shoes, that's where this fell into place. So it kind of worked out a little bit organically backwards.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a little bit of a fluid process. So it was as we were looking at the overall structure for the season and looking at the second half in particular, we saw that we were going to be, dropping in Dal's, origins. And that gave us a clue as to what we could do in order to make this feasible. It's why didn't they think about it until right now? Well, in part because this is a Hail Mary. It's a desperation what if we do this? And it's only because they know about Dal's DNA makeup now that they can even come up with this idea.
Right.
So it made a lot of sense in that we had already sort of been putting the pieces we needed in place in previous episodes to come to this moment. And then it was like, oh great, this is it. This is the thing we can do. And it's also the last real fun.
Before things go to shit.
They're telling us the next couple episodes get a little crazy.
Yeah, you never want to lose the fun. I mean, we didn't want it to become like too heavy and
or something.
Sad, like, it's still a show for all ages, and that includes our younger audience, and they should be able to have fun with it like anybody else. And so it was really freeing for us because we don't get to write a lot of comedy all the time, except in comics we got to do a little more than in our live action work. But here I was like, I'm not a natural comedian. I'm a very straight, dry sense of humor. But Julie is basically a 14-year-old boy. Yeah. So it works out incredibly well for us.
Speaking of that, kudos to the writing. I think one of my favorite elements of this entire episode was Dal in Janeway's body trying to like play off like, hey, Starfleet person, and like just just them communicating through each other, through each other's bodies was so funny. And also, like, again, kudos to the voiceover actors for Kate Mulgrew is incredible. Getting to play Dal's.
We asked Bonnie because we weren't there for your guys' records, and we asked Kevin the Emmys. We asked him.
By the way, huge congratulations for all of that. Well deserved, and many more.
It really was an honor to be nominated. They said there were over 3,000 entries or something. Like, couldn't even believe it. So we were thrilled to be
amazing.
And we were nominated when there was only 10 episodes out of our show.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
That's back next year.
Like you have to keep that in consideration. Some of these shows have been going on a little bit longer and have a little bit more, I think tread, is that the word I'm looking for? Or street cred or
Street
whatever.
Brand new.
Exactly.
That show. Where did it come from?
We asked the Hagemans, we said now, it was pretty clear to us that Kate must have recorded her lines and Brett recorded his, and they swapped so they could hear each other, and they're like, absolutely, they did that. So that also helped them with the performance, I think, was sort of helping each other. Like, this is how I would say it.
I was wondering about that because they really nailed it. And I hate to say it, but like, I was especially shocked by how well Kate delivered this. But then at the same time, Brett Gray does have the intonations and the cadence of Kate. And so that's how that's brilliant. I just thought that I pictured that they just watched every single episode and seeing that the other person was in. And by the way, can I just say,
a poo-poo platter.
Can I just say that when I first started watching this and I saw what was going on, my first thought was, I would have never had the temerity to tell somebody like Kate Mulgrew, okay, stay with me. We're going to have you playing a teenage boy, okay? And because who knows if an actor is going to be able to portray that so beautifully.
We had zero doubt.
She did it.
We were like, come on.
Well,
she's amazing.
She's amazing. We were like, it's going to be... We were so excited to see the episode because, like we said, we wrote this, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I don't even know at this point.
Wow.
100 years ago. And seeing the animators make them as goofy and silly as what we had all come up with in the room, we weren't sure if it was going to be as silly as it was. And I was so thrilled that it was just as ridiculous as we talked about in the room.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that Kate would be able to do this. And I think, honestly, it was just... We had to I'm assuming the Hagemans mostly had to do this work, but we all had to build the trust with her by giving her great stuff to do in the previous 17 episodes, or 16 anyway, with one line at the end of the first
she would
one.
Trust us.
So that she would feel like she would be comfortable to do the things we were asking her to do. But I really think that most people have not paid enough attention to Brett's work on the show, in part because Dal is such a jerk when you first meet him. He's just so and you're like, oh,
arrogant.
He's fantastic. He's fantastic.
He's great.
Actor.
Really great.
But I mean, he has really
Such good levels.
embodied the character in the ways that we talked about him. Dal was always a challenge for us because we knew that is a tough arc to overcome that sort of that attitude that he has. But we all knew what the emotion was under the attitude, and that once we could get him, you know, more comfortable with the other, you know, the others in the crew, that would come out.
And letting him have that arc that's about himself. And we had to turn over a big card in this episode, which of course was he's an augment. He might
the augment stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, that was like,
oh my gosh.
It felt like almost a tinge of racism, and like, you know, like I felt that he was excluded.
It was awful.
Yeah, excluded from everything, and I was just like, wow, this guy, he hasn't done anything to deserve that. And that's where you start to feel real empathy for him. And now I will also say that I enjoyed several moments in this episode. One in particular was when the hologram Janeway meets Dal as Janeway.
Oh yeah,
yes.
And
my favorite
and there's
scene.
that heart-to-heart conversation with Janeway to Janeway. And actually, Dal changes, you know, because in the animation, which was a great director's choice.
I was like, wait, when did this happen? And I went back and I just saw the smooth transition it was so smooth that I had missed it. And then I had to go back. Yeah.
Beautiful writing and beautiful directing as far as just, I really felt the intimacy of that moment. And it felt like Janeway was having a heart-to-heart with herself almost. I just loved it.
Yeah, that was maybe our favorite scene to write in a lot of ways because, you know, we're obviously huge fans of Kate. She's a huge inspiration to us. And so getting to write the scene where we get to see, you know, Admiral Kate and a younger version of her that we all came to know and love, and getting them to talk in a scene was just epic. And somebody pointed out there's actually four Janeways in that scene.
Yeah, well, there's 4 Janeways in the episode.
No, but 3 in that scene because they have the Chakotay.
If you think about it, because Kate's playing
Right.
Admiral, she's playing Hollow Janeway, but then she's also playing Dal as the Admiral, and then she's playing Dal as the Admiral trying to be the Admiral, so actually trying to be Janeway.
Yes.
So she's like doing like 2 levels down of like trying to be herself, which means she gets to be larger than her normal performance. But yeah, like in that scene, you do have 3. You've got Hollow Janeway, you've got the flashback, or rather flashback, it's the log. Yeah. It's the full account of what happened to Chakotay. And that was something that we knew that was going to land.
Another card we had to
we
turn
needed
over.
to get this out before the finale.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're doing a lot of fun, silly things, but we knew we also had to balance it with these really big emotional moments between those 2 characters, and then of course the Diviner and Admiral Janeway Dal. So I mean,
that was the scene I loved.
That's the scene.
Yes,
I was going to bring that up.
The Diviner scene,
because Dal as Janeway says, you know, I would protect my daughter too if I were you. Like there was a moment where the villain in this thing does an act of good, which is a character trait that I like. And good, I think it's just a good writing tool to have a villain be layered. They did that on Deep Space Nine.
Not doing what you'd expect too.
Not doing what you expect. So I love that, and I also like the moment where it's Dal is facing his biggest fear. He's looking at the Diviner. He's fearful of the Diviner, even though he's in Janeway's body, but he's still looking at the thing he fears most. And then there was a connection there. Dal was like, you know, you're trying to protect your daughter, and I get it. Like there was a moment where he was like, I get where you're coming from type of moment. And I thought that was another special moment in this episode that made me think, wow, this is so complicated. This is like not just
very complex.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like, I love how he says, like, I would do anything to protect Gwen too. And it's just like just that one moment of the Diviner going, wait a minute, you know, you called her Gwen. Yeah, exactly. It just, little couples of
moment where Dal could tell he was telling the truth, that this guy was not, there had no reason to lie, and he was definitely feeling a new emotion for his daughter. And as a lot of people have not caught yet, that episode, he calls her his daughter, whereas he's been calling her progeny for almost the entire season.
It's amazing what a brain wipe can do from a Medusan, you know? Like, he kind of just got a reset. It's kind of nice, you know? It was like going to a spa, you know, decompressing, coming back and be like, hey, you know what? I've rethought my life decisions, and I'm ready to do yoga.
He went through some super intense therapy to sort of rid himself of some baggage. But I
did some meditation, self-reflection, you know, the typical Tuesday things.
I'm picturing him like doing yoga or something.
Complicated villains, I think, are really important all the time. But I think also, especially when you're writing for a younger audience, it does not, you know, you never want to talk down to your audience ever, regardless of what age they are. And a one-note villain is a way of simplifying things for kids that don't need that simplified.
Look, he's a bad guy. He kicks a dog. He's
the thing
are complicated.
Yeah, and the thing we talked about a lot was that, you know, ultimately, what does the diviner want? He wants to save his planet. He wants to save his people. You cannot be 100% evil and have this intent to try to save millions of people. So there is empathy there. There is caring there. But his methods and what we've seen his actions have been really abominable, right? And so that paints him in that light. So now you strip that away where he doesn't have that, you know, that baggage with him anymore. And he's seeing Starfleet for what it is. Janeway has saved his life, essentially, pulling him out of Tars Lamora and stasis. And so, of course, he's a little conflicted about what he's going to do. He still wants to save his people. That's really super important to him. But it also allowed him to see Gwen differently, you know, as no longer just
a tool,
a means to an end, right? She is his daughter. She is his offspring. And that's... I think the thing Dal finally gets to see in that scene, because the last time he saw the Diviner was going to leave their butts on Tars Lamora and go. So basically, he was going to kill them. So it is a huge shift for them. They have no idea that he has gone through this change.
I wonder if Dal will mention it to Gwen in the next episode.
I don't know.
Hey, that's not fair. You know the answer. We have to wait a minute.
Yeah, wait a minute.
I mean, there's a lot going on in the
I honestly don't remember. I'll have to go back and look.
I don't know this, but because this is the first time I've seen it, maybe you guys can correct me, Ryan, too. The merged warp bubble idea, that seemed new to me. Like, I had never seen that before.
I can answer that.
Here he goes.
All right.
Actually, our good buddy, Mr. Don Crandall, reminded me last night, because that's what we do, us nerds. We stay up late at night, and then we yip, all about the episode. In Enterprise, Star Trek Enterprise, Trip Tucker... Was it the Columbia and the Enterprise? It was another one of the ships, and they merged their bubbles, and he did like a little fireman's pole or something. It was something like that. That's the only one I remember.
I gotta go back.
Yeah, no, that was a specific reference, and that one is an Aaron Walkie special. I will give him credit for that one, just because he knew Enterprise like inside and out. Like he knew. Like I can quote chapter verse on TNG, DS9, Voyager.
But Enterprise was your...
Enterprise, I fell out slightly after the first, 2 years, so I didn't know, I caught up to it finally, but I did, there were still bits where I couldn't remember.
It was an idea in the room.
Yeah.
Aaron said, I think they did it in Enterprise, and we definitely triple-checked with our Dr. Aaron to make sure that we could merge more bubbles. Once you said yes, we're like, great. Yeah,
it's in canon, we can do it.
By the way, I did want to mention another ship, because whenever there's a whole bunch of ships that show up at the end of an episode, us nerds, I'm like, I pull up my glasses and I start pausing and freeze frame, because I'm like, there was a ship that I was like, I know I'm going to see this in here, and it was this ship. I'm going to show everybody right here. I had to zoom in on it. I think we know this one right here.
That looks like the Defiant right there.
Yes. See, this is Gwen and Rock Talk. How'd that happen, huh?
How'd that get there?
Defiant class in a long time.
How did that get there? Someone dropped a Defiant on the floor.
Right. Now, they correctly probably said Defiant class. We don't know for sure. We don't know if it's the Defiant itself. It's several years later. Maybe it is. Yeah. Maybe it's just Defiant class. But very happy you included that.
Nice nugget.
Yeah.
I think every ship is out there. I think they've got them all.
They've got a lot. I love
we
that
wrote all of
they
them,
went
so
deep.
I don't know what they are.
All the ships.
All the ships.
Show up.
Yeah.
You'll get a ship. You'll get a ship. You'll get a ship.
I remember before we left the room and wrapped on the room, the storyboard artists had really just come on board. They were starting to do the character design, so we didn't get to see a lot of it before we were done. But one of the guys that we met, and I feel terrible because I wanted to confirm this and I forgot, but he was like the guy who was doing all the ships.
Oh yeah.
He was like helping with the protostar design, and he was just so
excited
into the
episode.
ships. And I was like, and when I saw a lot of the kit bash type ships that were out there, I was like, that dude went deep, man. Like
fun.
he went and he found
ship guys take that stuff seriously.
Oh yeah.
That is my blind spot. I will admit that the ships. That's my blind spot. It's like cars. Cars are being like, is it a bubble car? Is it red? I don't know.
And that's stuff that's important for us because like we watch it and we see what the animators and what the director has done, and
incredible.
And it's just astounding because there are things that we can put suggestions in the script essentially of what we want to see or what we think it is, but then like you said, that transition between Dal and Janeway was perfectly executed.
Oh, that one was great. It totally worked.
Yeah.
We always knew we wanted Admiral Dal to be spitting out coffee.
Oh,
we
yeah.
knew that
one was
I love it that it was the doctor's orders. It's like, doctor's orders that you drink. It's like Janeway's not herself. Quick, someone pour a cup of coffee. Like, it's a cure for everything. That'll fix her. It's like turning her off and back on again. Like, quick, someone fix it.
I know it is.
Someone fix
She needs
Janeway.
a Snickers. Yeah.
I'm so
I also loved
can drink coffee. I can't do it. It tastes like dirty hot bean juice to me. So like I am like Dal, I would spit it out if it
Julie
were.
sees the coffee in the nebula. She's like, no, thank you. I don't need that
French
nebula.
people call it sock juice. They say American coffee is because they drink espressos, and so they see these big watered down things.
More Euro. Okay. Yeah. I'll do that.
Yeah.
I like the line where Janeway says, "My brains are fine."
Yeah.
I was just
I
laughing
think
for that.
for us it was like, Dal might have tried to
Sure.
go along with it.
Smarter than we're
He just went through a body swap. Like,
and nobody told him that was going to happen. He's figuring it out on the fly.
Anybody.
Right.
I challenge anybody to hold it all together
right into
perfectly.
In heels.
Oh
In
no,
heels
I would be
and-
completely panicked. I feel like I love how he was walking. I love him walking in the heels with his little feet,
Good
like
detail.
his little ankles falling. I also love because here's why it's so important that, and why I love that so many of the writers on the show are actual Trekkies, because you can add things like this, like just Janeway throwing that with Dal throwing that little comment of, "Oh, I was once turned into a
salamander.
A salamander.
Yeah.
This is nothing. Like, this is a walk in the park. That type
you were
of thing."
breaking the internet with that line.
I
You
was
guys know
like-
what you were doing there.
But
It's
that
so
line,
great.
We always knew in the room we wanted to mention it. Like, we're like, come on, we can't do this show and not mention the salamander.
It's too funny.
It's too funny.
It's great.
And
it's
then we
so
tried
good.
to figure out other episodes where it might land. It was sort of this magic topic that we couldn't figure out where it would fit nicely and not feel shoved in of like, let's get the salamander thing in before the show's over. And in this, it just totally worked perfectly.
Yeah, because you didn't want it to be forced or anything. Yeah.
Right.
If you're going to do a reference, I mean, and obviously Lower Decks does a lot of references. They're really great at it. But if you're going to do something like that, we wanted to make it as organic to story as humanly possible, because otherwise it just sticks out too much.
I feel Lower Decks gets away with a lot more with that because they are considered more of a parody in my view. I mean, yes, they do have good story and they are, canon and in that regards that they are, part of Star Trek. But I feel like, again, it's a little bit more on the parody side to where they're referencing things to get the laughs, where Prodigy, on the other hand, is referencing things to continue the story or to show that these characters are actually who they are and who they say they are.
Yeah.
And like showing experiences that Janeway has actually gone through, throwing those little Easter eggs out. Just the coffee drinking, just the fact that hologram Janeway drinks coffee. Like from the very beginning, from like episode 3 when she first grabbed it, I was like, well, this is Janeway.
I think that's one of the key things that we really love about the show too, is that you get a laugh on the same thing from the two, like the older adults watching and the kids.
Yeah.
So they're laughing about it, but they're laughing for very different reasons. You know, the kids are laughing at that because the idea of her having been turned into an animal at some point is just funny, right? A kid thinks about that and it is silly. And an adult thinks about it and they know the context.
They're like, oh, this is an awkward episode. It's like, let me tell you about
an
Tom
active
Paris.
salamander.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the kind of stuff that makes it feel like you're executing well on the concept.
Absolutely.
Oh.
I also think it was clever.
Delightful.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I thought it was clever because this whole time we've been waiting to see Dal. Dal has this desire to be in Starfleet, and
absolutely.
And now he actually in this episode is in Starfleet. You know, whether not in his body, but
he's cosplaying.
Yeah,
he's LARPing. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can see like it was like, oh wait, it's a lot of pressure to not only just be in Starfleet, but literally be an admiral, and everybody, all eyes are on you, and you know, what do we do
and
next?
Adult eyes are on you. All of a sudden,
right.
Like
the crew's reaction was the best, especially when on the bridge where he's like, you know, oh yeah, let's do this, and then we'll do the pew pew pew, and they're just all looking at each other like, what in the world?
Yeah. I think it was not planned, but it was a great coincidence in a way that the previous episode, you know, Dal's holodeck, you know, fantasy is that he's on a pirate ship because he has a crew that respects him. And so here he literally walks into an environment Admiral Janeway, and they're looking at him, and he honestly chokes. Like he just can't do it because he wants to.
Those are big shoes to fill.
But
heels, big heels to fill.
Big heels to fill.
Yeah,
it was funny because we love Freaky Friday, the original one with is it Jodie Foster? Yeah. And but we were bigger fans of Quantum Leap. So whenever we got the body swap episode, we're like, this is the Quantum Leap episode. So this title was originally Quantum Leap for a long time.
And then they did the show.
Really?
So now it's like...
Oh,
I think there was clearance issues. But we thought it was so perfect on a sci-fi level of a quantum leap outside the thing. And anyway.
Oh, that's perfect.
But like a spacewalk, Mindwalk, I really love what y'all, the title of the show, how it works. Yeah, it's great.
It does work.
And also the idea of completing like this circuit so that you have to be able to, you know, the idea of the touching and then shooting the phaser. I thought those were just all clever, really cool ways for, you know, kids to learn how to problem solve. And I think that's one of the main things that I get from watching this show is watching kids not only figure out their identity, but also learn about problem solving and, you know, how to deal with emotions and situations. So those are the lessons that are subliminally left through the episodes that you walk away feeling good about as an adult while watching it. I say, oh, this is the kind of show that
Speaking
I want my kids to watch.
Yeah. My favorite, I think, again, everyone knows I'm a Rock Talk fan, was when Admiral Dal goes, you know, you're going to make a great science officer one day, and Rock Talk just goes and hugs. I'm like, oh, because then you get to see Admiral Janeway, yes, in Dal's body, but you get to see that she's actually seeing who these kids are, and like they're not criminals. They were honestly just trying to save Starfleet and that own stuff. So now it's seeing that Admiral Janeway is getting a relationship with them. You know,
it was
in that little moment with Rock Talk. Yeah.
It was such a fun moment to write too, because we knew how sweet it would be and how sweet Rock Talk is and how loving and caring, and she's a hugger. And I just
absolutely.
think that's so sweet, because I guess I never pictured Janeway as a big hugger. So I think it's really sweet that she just sort of lets it happen.
And I think that she built that relationship with Hollow Janeway.
Yes.
And so she
feels like she knows her.
She feels like, I mean, it's kind of a natural extension of that.
Right.
And she knows Dal. So, you know, it's sort of like she gets the best.
It's like a 3-for-1 hug, really, when you think about it. Like, what a deal.
What a deal. I know. I want one of those Rock Talk hugs.
Oh my gosh, me too. I want a Rock Talk.
Might hurt though, wouldn't it? It's kind of clunky.
She's not spiky. She's not really spiky.
Not craggy. Well, she's craggy,
but she is. Spiky. She's also very young, Ricard. So
soft.
You know, that can
soft
change.
rock.
I want to hug.
I like soft rock.
I want to hug Murph. I think Murph would be a great hug.
Well, yeah, he's so squishy. He's squishy.
Murph and Dal hug. That was very nice. I did want to point out one quick thing too, by the way. One of the hardest things that an actor can do, and the best actors do this very well, is that nonverbal communication, right? Somebody else is talking and we're watching this actor, and this actor is saying stuff with their eyes, with their reactions, with, we know what they're thinking, even though they're not saying or doing anything. What's even harder than that is for animators to do that on the face of a character. And I saw that, I see it constantly. When it really jumped out at me was Asensia's face. When Janeway is talking, and we look over at Asensia like, what's she thinking? What's she going to say?
What's she going to do?
Her face is telling the story. And I don't know how these animators are pulling this off, but it's unbelievable.
It's magic. In my head, it's magic. I can't draw a straight line. So the fact that they can do any of it and get that emotion across is insane. We did get a weird question. Well, it wasn't weird. It was a good question. But it was oh, that's what you're worried about? They were like, why didn't Asensia, why didn't she ping that something was off? Or why didn't she, and it's like, what she does, or what does she think actually happened to Janeway? Why is she sort of letting it all go? And it's like, well, the diviner did sort of karate chop her in the previous episode.
I was about to say, I would have think head injury or.
Yeah, I think she thinks maybe she got hit a little too hard, and I better just see where this takes us. Yeah. So.
Memory loss, and she doesn't remember the conversation. Yeah, something's going on.
Yeah. And also her waking up in the closet, we talked a lot about that, but that the body swap is what allowed her to wake up sooner than what she would have. If they hadn't swapped bodies, she would have stayed in that closet, stayed unconscious, and the diviner would have come in and handcuffed her. But the timing was she woke up and now she's out because it's Dal. Yeah. So those are the little nitpicky fixes. I just want to throw at everyone. All these things.
And another shout out to the animators, which they couldn't have done without amazing writing, by the way. But the little act of charades, like the fact that charades is hard enough with people doing it. The fact that you have animated characters trying to convey a solution. Yeah, exactly.
Floating around.
That was really cute.
Very sweet. And Jenkum had one of my favorite lines when he says, I think SOS are all the letters he knows.
Yeah.
No, he killed me when he says, when Rock Talk says, oh, can you just reconfigure the blah, blah, blah? He's like, yeah, sure. Why not?
Sure,
beep, boop, haha. Jacob doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think that's all Hageman's.
As a reminder that, Jenkum is still a kid and he doesn't know everything.
Sure, got it.
He's not a machine.
I'm just, honestly, it just shows too how smart Rock Talk is too.
Yeah,
she's a smarty.
She is. I don't think that you've seen the depths of her actual knowledge base yet. Just
she was alone for a very long time.
Too long, in fact.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
This is another question just for the writers. When you are writing, do you change the characters at all based on the actors that are portraying the characters?
I was wondering that too today. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see the actor that comes in and plays Rock Talk and say, you know what, because they're like this, I think I'm going to tweak the character just slightly a little bit this way?
We had, again, the either luxury of ignorance or I don't know what the opposite of that would be, but we didn't know who was going to play most of these characters except for Kate. They were in process of casting. I know when we were still there,
we knew that a young child would play Rock Talk.
Right.
That was the
hope.
Thing
always
we hoped and knew was that we would have a child playing a child. So
in this big body. So we knew the comedy of that was going to be there, but I don't think. No, because we didn't have the luxury of hearing even a lot of it before we were wrapped in the room. And then maybe for second season, they're doing something to, sort of fit those personalities a little bit better. But no.
Yeah, Kate's voice is really the only one that you could really channel.
And Shawna would do the scratch. And we had to, when Bonnie talks about doing the scratch records and stuff, Shawna got to be Janeway because she was the one who could
They just kept designating me as Janeway. And so
that's great.
Do my best Janeway impression, which is actually terrible.
Well, that's okay. If it makes you feel better, I had to do mine for Kate. They were like,
Kate?
do my voice, and I was like, she's like, do it. Let me hear it. And I'm like, this is how I get left behind.
But I mean, it was great to kind of have her in your head already.
Oh yeah, so that was the
know what the cadence is for the lines,
Right.
and also too knowing that the range of what she did in Voyager. I mean, she was Bride of Chaotica, and she was, I mean, she played super straight-laced and straight woman, and then there were times where she did sort of
be goofy,
unwind a little bit, and so you're able to see that, like in her Fairhaven holodeck stuff, So I mean, there's a lot of fun that she got to have as that character. So that's the other reason we weren't really too worried about her looking at this and going, all right, let's do it.
I think having Janeway on Prodigy was the best decision ever made, because I feel like once that was released, that information was released, I think anyone who was skeptical, I know some people are still skeptical about Prodigy because they think it's a kid's show, but anyone who was kind of like on the fence about watching it, that immediately sold them right away. It's like, wait, more Janeway?
Universe,
exactly. She's
I think we can talk about it now, that whenever they were pursuing Kate Mulgrew, there was just this back and forth. I think she was in New York and we're in LA, and so there was a lot of back and forth. And the writers in the room, the girls especially, because we had a lot of female writers in there, we said, why don't we write her a letter and tell her how much she means to us? And maybe it would. We didn't think it would sway her opinion. We didn't think she wasn't doing it. It was more like, let's just make her feel comfortable that we have her back.
Appreciation.
And so we all stayed late, and we wrote this really touching letter to her. It was like 5 of us: Lisa Schultz Boyd, us, Deandra, Emac, and we wrote a collective letter, and then we each had little paragraphs of how we first met Janeway and what she meant to us, and why we did what we did. And we assumed she got it. We were told she got it. So it's the one thing we haven't sort of cornered her about, of like, did you get our letter? But
well, I have a copy of the letter right here, because she advanced me for this interview. It's amazing.
There's doodles in there.
I think kind of after we wrote that, like, I think the therapy of that was us saying, even if the show isn't seen by anyone and everyone hates it or whatever, we will feel like we got to tell her how much that character meant to us as women. So
that's so beautiful. Like, you got me all teary-eyed, and it wasn't an eyelash. Like, I'm legit, like, that's really special, y'all. Seriously.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
so we only have
she got that letter.
We only have about a minute left or so, but I did want to say very quickly that there's got to be something. I don't know if you've had the chance to stop and think about this or talk about this, but there's got to be something very magical in knowing that there are going to be people someday that are going to come up to you and say, because of you, I'm a Star Trek fan. And you know that's going to happen, and you know it is happening. And you are actually
it's already happened, I guarantee you.
Inside of you're creating that bug inside of people right now, and you're changing lives. And I don't know if you've had a chance to really let that sink in, but it has happened, and you're going to see that happening in your life at some point. It's got to be amazing.
I will cry if some girl comes up to me and I'm like 90. I don't smoke. Like some husk of a woman. And she's like, I'm now a STEM scientist because of Star Trek and Rock Talk or whatever. I mean, that would be a thrill. But again, it's such a collective effort. We can't, yes, we realize the responsibility and we took it very seriously, but it's also such a group effort that it's hard to take it only on ourselves, obviously. Like, I mean, it's the whole writing team, the whole animation team. It's a
good kind of collective.
It's a good collective.
It's the kind of Borg collective you wish it was, right?
But we always wrote the show going, what would 7-year-old Julie want to see, and what would 11-year-old Shawna want to see, and what would be the show we wish we could have seen when we were their age, and that we brought into the room literally every day. Everybody came in with that hope and joy. So I hope it shows up on screen. I think it does. So proud of it. I can't wait to see the finale.
We love it. We're watching this show. It's such a joy to watch this series. Every time I sit down to it, it ends too fast for me. I'm like, it's over.
That's the biggest.
We crammed so much story
complaint
into those episodes.
Absolutely,
and it's like 2 minutes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for watching it and giving it so much love and attention. And we'll nitpick all day. So if anyone wants to hit us up online, we're happy to go deep.
Love it.
But thank you very much.
Thank you. And obviously that everybody else is recognizing it because you guys are Emmy nominated, and it's not just us that feels special about this show. So congratulations, keep doing the great work, and we love that you came on the show to talk to us about it.
Thank you. We're sad that our work there is kind of done now. That was our last Star Trek episode, I think. We're not on season 2, so we're excited to watch it.
What?
This is the saddest news.
You did hint at a 2-part season finale for this first season. Is that what's coming up?
Yes. That is out there now. Yes, it's a 2-parter.
Yes.
Okay.
So it almost felt like our episode was sort of the penultimate, because the next episode is just this big old finale.
That is the
Right.
Right.
Well, that's so sad that you're not in part of season 2, but we do hope to see you again sometime in some
when season 3 gets renewed, when they renew it for season 3. Look, let's put that into the universe, because that's what honestly I'm crossing all my fingers and toes and legs and anything else I can cross that it gets picked up for a season 3.
I certainly hope so. I hope the guys deserve it.
Feels like a certainty.
I think everyone deserves it. Prodigy deserves it. The story deserves it, and the characters deserve it, because their stories need to be told.
Well,
we didn't leave that room without ideas for season 2 and onwards, so I know they're there.
Absolutely,
but
absolutely.
So I mean, we're excited to see where it goes next year as fans, because we're like, great, we know these characters.
We lobbed a lot of ideas. We're like, bye.
But then that's the thing, and that's the thing with me is I wasn't in this episode, so the episodes that I'm not in anymore, I don't have any information on. So a lot of these newer episodes that the computer doesn't speak.
Oh, that's
I'm going in blind.
Wait, she doesn't speak in the
She
finale?
doesn't.
No.
Well,
no, I'm saying in 18 in your episode.
Yes, that's correct.
So watching your episode, I was going in blind as well. But for me, it's like I get even more excited because I don't know what happens. It's an unknown. So I'm just sitting there like a.
The only thing we can say about the finale, and I know we have to go, is we worked on a show called The 100, where every episode, if you go back and rewatch this, if you're ever wanting to binge a show, we will tell you what we're doing at the end of Act 1, and then we do it by the end of Act 5. And every episode, we tell you a horrible thing that's going to happen, and it happens. And
there are very few last second scenes.
And there's a lot of So I will say for the finale, we've told you.
Be prepared.
What's going to
Right.
Ooh, I like that. It's like a fortune
nice
cookie.
Cliffhanger.
It's like a fortune cookie.
Yeah.
You already know it in your heart. It's true.
The Bensons are my fortune cookie.
What's that line? Search
a very
your
well written
feelings,
one.
You will know it to be true. Okay, so we do have to give a very quick special thanks to Homer Frizzell. He's out in Walter Koenig's former apartment complex building in New York. He pays us to say that. Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet, Timothy Baum, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan, Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, John Mann, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Polat, Erika Stroem, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, DQ, Neal Akasaka, Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, Radek Orszewski out in Southwest Poland, everybody knows, Henry Unger, My Life from Tokyo, Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner.
This is my important person name dance.
You nailed it too. I was watching it.
Yeah. And last thing, Nami did such amazing music on this one. Like you guys should
my gosh.
talk about the music.
Just like the other 17 episodes.
I'm like, when does she not do amazing music? She blows my mind every episode. Like you almost forget how important music is to this kind of work, and she knocks it out of the water every time.
Especially with the comedic scenes with Kate, I thought the music just lended to that comedy.
So good. Yeah. So our special thanks to her as well as all of your patrons.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you, Shawna and Julie. Number one, for making such an amazing show for all of us to enjoy, and for joining us today. This was very cool. Cirroc and I and Bonnie were exchanging very excited texts when you said yes, you would join us. So thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
For that. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
It's wonderful. We love it. And we love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's about it. Thank you all very much. Everybody at home, go ahead and tweet Julie and Shawna and tell them how much you loved this episode. And you heard them. They challenged you. They said, go ahead and nitpick us. We got it. We got this covered.
Give it a got it. Give it a got it.
Yeah.
Mindwalk. Thanks very much, everybody. We will see you next time on The Seventh Rule.